G'day guys, another video here today for Old Rigs Down Under. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of work on the old F model that I picked up from Queensland. It was supposed to be the Easter surprise, but it didn't quite happen, unfortunately. It didn't happen that way. So initially I'm going to go through a couple of checks that I want to do on it before I set about bolting some parts on and trying to start it up. Just to give you a little bit of an overview, this vehicle hasn't run for 15 years or so. The bloke that I bought it off, he reckons 15 years or so. I think he rated a few parts off it, and then the bloke that he bought it from, which was up in Queensland I believe, it was used for parts up there as well. So it's been ratted out for a fair while. In saying that, the engine side of it's reasonably complete, and it's been reasonably well covered up, obviously being under the cab. So anyway, I'm just going to show you a couple of things that I normally go through when I haven't started a vehicle for a while. I'm obviously fairly conscious of engines running away. If you've already seen the White Plainsman video, yeah, it always puts the wind up you, and it's not a real good thing for the engine, especially if it's been sitting for a good period of time either. It's a little bit like someone in a wheelchair, you know, getting out and doing a 100-metre sprint. It's a baptism of fire. So you really want to, I reckon, just go through a couple of things first, even though it sometimes still happens to the best of us. So, like I say, this thing, it's been out of action for a good while. So we'll have a bit of a look. I'll show you and see what we can work out. Yeah, just go easy on the comments here. It might be a little bit shaky because I'm just using this camera freehand. But anyway, it is a bit hard to see there with the two lots of light, or the sunlight coming in. I've just got a work light there. Now the thing that's really important on these old Mack pumps is to check the rack on them. Now that sounds like a difficult job. We all like checking out a rack. So and we've got to do something that a lot of blokes enjoy too. We've got to set that rack free. So the main thing is, or the best way to tell, is with your stopper cable, right? So what I've done here, I've already loosened, sorry about that camera work there, I've already loosened off the cable. So I'll just take that out of the way, and what's left is your stopper. Hopefully you can see that all right. Like I say, this light is a bit difficult here. Try and get it down to a spot where we're not competing with the light as such. There we go. So that's as free as a bird, that rack. You can hear that clacking sound once it gets to there, right? So the rack runs right through that, and it works a pinion on each of these injector spouts, and that controls your fuel delivery. But yeah, if you can hear that really good sound there, so you've got a little bit of free travel, and then you can hear it just slapping that rack back there. That's exactly what you want, right? So if you're not getting that, a lot of these engines that have been sitting around for a while, you'll just get that. There'll be nothing. There'll be no sort of second stage to it where it's doing any sort of pulling back. Now, I've mentioned in previous videos, these things they'll start in full fuel position, right? So that's the rack all the way forward, full fuel. What happens then, when the engine starts spinning over, there's a governor in the back here where my hand is, and it's got a series of weights on it. Now those weights they're all connected to a central pivot or two central pivots, and they'll fly out, and with centrifugal force it's hooked up to the rack, and it will pull the rack back the further the weights fly out. So that's to get full fuel at first startup, and then once the governor kicks in, it'll just pull it back to a metered amount of revs. So quite often, if these things have been sitting for a good while, it will be stopped in the full fuel position, because that's just its natural position. So that's why you can feel that, and it's pulling that thing back. So that there's really good. I won't have to worry about that. Right, the next thing I'm going to do on this one is I've got a lift pump to go on there, which I've rated off another pump here. So I'll be able to put that on. Hopefully get some fuel up. Now these couple of fuel lines here, what I'm going to do, I've even got the right fittings on them and everything. I'm just going to lift them up where I can get to them and just blow air back through them. So on these F models, got a couple of filters there. Obviously this is an Australian truck. I'm not sure where they are on the American models. Maybe some of you can comment and fill me in on that. But anyway, so I'm going to replace these filters and get some fresh fuel. Now these tanks are going to come off this truck, so I'm going to put square ones on it. So for the purpose of this job, I'm just going to start it out of a jerry can. So these are the two lines here. I might even undo them from here, get them back over the top of the chassis so I've got a bit of length. Perhaps even sit them here in this battery box and just have the fuel lines coming straight off this filter back into a drum. So that's what I'm going to do there. That'll just eliminate any other problems. I've got some clean fuel here. Rightio, so that'll be the next thing. Look, what else I'm going to do, and you probably should do it with an air start system that hasn't been used for a while. I'm going to remove this hose here from the starter motor. I'm just going to put some diesel down it. Now you'll probably see out that exhaust there where my finger is. You'll probably see the diesel trickle out there, and that's a good thing. At least it'll be getting a bit through it, because when it gets that rush of air, at least it'll have something to throw in and splash around the vanes. So the other thing I'll do, like the fuel hoses, I'll just get some shop air and just blow back through this hose, just make sure there's not a wasp nest or something like that in it. But as you can see, this side of the engine doesn't look too bad. It's fairly complete. All the fuel lines are hooked up. It's missing a tip turbine fan, which I've got around there. Again, sorry for the edginess of this camera work. I haven't got the gimbal working today. So that's my tip turbine fan there. So I've explained these in a previous video. They're spun with boost air from the turbo. And they've got a valve there, just a little check valve in them so that they don't leak boost back. But yes, obviously your turbo's on this side of it, and it goes into there, really gets that thing spinning and wound up, and yeah, so that's the way they work. I'll replace that. I've got well, actually the bit of hose is still on there, so that'll be a good thing. There's a turbo off another 285 I've just had sitting around here. So put that back on, got a gasket there, just got to find one of the bolts for it's missing. Other than that, we're fairly complete in and around that engine. I'm actually really amazed by that fuel pump. I thought I was going to get a really good video for you all doing that, but like I say, I can't believe that's as free as a bird, so that's really good. Another thing we'll just quickly do, so inch and 1/8 socket and a bar, bit of rag, and we'll just check this. Just a good idea always just to check the sump plug. I'll just set this camera up somewhere where you can see. Like I say, bear with me, it's a bit agricultural at the moment. Rightio, so I've checked the oil up top and it doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's black, but most oil is. So for today's episode, you know, for the purpose of this exercise anyway, we'll just make sure there's no water sitting on the bottom of it, right? We don't know anything about this truck, you know, whether it's been, no, look at that, just pure oil there, no worries. Now of course, get the plug back in. which is what always happens, doesn't it? Dirty bastard. Yeah, like I say, we don't know too much about this vehicle. That's making a fool of me there, isn't it? You know, if the washer's caught or something, what a bastard. This is one of those bloody 30-second jobs that's turning out to be a contract, isn't it? Anyway, no lives were lost, no penguins were killed in the making of this, so bit of an oil slick there, but anyway, nothing we haven't seen before. So yeah, you always just want to crack that. At least we know, because I mean this has got the deep sump on it, so it's got a pickup that probably sits half an inch or an inch off the bottom. So you just want to make sure there's not a crust of oil, or sorry, a crust of bloody rubbish or something underneath the oil. Yeah, so I mean there's the camera again. So yeah, that's good news there as well. So yeah, I suppose now we can probably get into the changing of filters and priming with fuel and all that sort of thing. The gearbox has been full of water on this one, but I've just yeah, I've had some Kero in it, I've had some oil in it, drained all the rubbish out of it. So I'll probably just put a bit of 80-90 in there. What's happened, someone's robbed the lid off that, they've robbed the selector and the stick and everything, so it's a bit of a shame. Mack 10 speed. But anyway, that gives you a little bit of an idea of what the project is. So I'll probably set about doing a few little jobs on it, then bring the camera back on when I'm getting some fuel up or something like that. It's a little bit hard, been a one-man operation, and trying to do everything by myself, but anyway, like I say, the early signs are good. As you can see, once the turbo's on there, I mean all of that top cover of the pump's almost inaccessible, so it's actually really handy just for the purpose of this video that turbo's not on there. Anyway, so but our rack's free, that's the main thing, it's really good. I'll hook that stopper back up and clean up the gasket mounting, put the turbo on. We've got a top hose here and the bottom hose is here for it. I've just moved that up out of the way for the video. Clean up those surfaces and get that sitting on there. Like I say, put a lift pump on here. Next time you see it, all that stuff will be complete. Probably won't put the tip turbine fan on yet, because we might just have to crack some injectors up top, and it's always a bit more difficult while that thing's in place. Yeah, anyway, all good. So that'll give us something to do for a little while. And yeah, I'll post this video up straight away. If you've got any ideas or comments or anything like that, I'll be able to answer those for you. But anyway, the next one I'll bring you will be maybe a little bit more of an action shot. Alright, thanks for watching guys, stay tuned.